What is up, everybody? We are back with another modern video. This time we're playing something a little bit different than last time. This is Red Prowess. This is a deck that I had some success with a couple of months back in the Mana Trader series, where I ultimately finished top four. The format has changed a decent bit since then, but I'm kind of mainly starting where I left off, I guess is the best way to put it. With the addition of Bomat Courier, I just want to go ahead and try that out because it was so successful in the Shadow deck. So I figured this has a very similar shell in the sense of one drops, Lurrus, baubles, things like that. So it's very similar in the setup in terms of the shell. So I figured Bomat might be a good addition here. But I kind of wanted to go back to this deck and see how it goes in the current format because again, like I said, I think the format is quite a bit different than when the last time I played this deck. But I do think that this deck in particular is probably a slight favorite against the other Shadow decks, even though those are on the decline. And I think you still have a slight advantage in the heads up against the other Prowess decks, namely the Obosh deck, which I think would be the other most popular Prowess deck right now. Mainly just because you have the black removal spells, you have card advantage with Kolaghan's Command, Lurrus, Unearth, and then you have Cling to Dust if the games go long. So if you're trading a bunch of resources, you have inevitability with Cling to Dust and things like that. And also Cling to Dust is very good against Seasoned Pyromancer, which is one of their better cards in the matchup. So I think overall this deck might be in a good spot. So we'll go ahead and give it a shot today and see how it goes. Some notable differences or I get upgrades, I guess, if you will. Previously, when I played this deck, we had 4 Abbot of Carol Keep. This time, I'm trying a split of Abbot of Carol Keep and Magmatic Channeler. When the new set came out, I had noticed this as one of the cards that I thought had potential to be one of the best cards in the set, and I really just haven't gotten a chance to play with it that much. I do think it could be quite good in this deck, so I want to see how it plays out. Similar in Abbot in terms of it's a 2-drop that provides card advantage. Well, this isn't necessarily card advantage, it's card selection. But you can turn it on pretty quickly. You can loot away extra lands and dead Thoughtseizes that you draw later in the game. So it makes it nice that you can play extra discard spells like that too, because they're never dead draws when you have Channeler. So we'll go ahead and see how that goes. I am playing the 4 Fatal Push. I know some versions have had 2 or 3 in the past, but I think Fatal Push is in a good spot right now, so I want to make sure I play the full 4. And I mean, everything else is fairly stock. You might think that 3 Cling to Dust is pretty high, but there's a lot of Uros going around, a lot of Seasoned Pyromancers. So I think Cling to Dust is in a pretty good spot right now, and it's also just a card that triggers Prowess. So it's never going to be that bad. It's a cycler that triggers Prowess. We're playing one Kolaghan's Command main deck just because I want to have a little bit more of a grindy setup game one than like previous versions that played Manamorphose and Lava Dart. They were more all in on the aggressive plan. I'm not sure that that's necessarily where you want to be right now in the format, so we're going to see how that goes. And then, like I said, everything else is pretty straightforward. The sideboard, we have some Graveyard Hate for Oops All spells, Dredge, things like that. We have some Rampages, just kind of a catch-all when you want to kill larger creatures, or you can also bring this against the heavy Planeswalker Uro decks that maybe you can get a Teferi or a Wrenn like that. We have Kroxa for the grindy matchups. This is sort of like a package deal, if you will. We have a Braid in tandem with Rampage for artifacts like Batterskull, equipment decks, things like that. We have Wildfires for our big mana matchups, and then we have Feed the Swarm as it's a nice catch-all that can just destroy a bigger creature, because outside of Fatal Push you don't really have anything that just destroys larger creatures. Most of your removal is damage based, so it's nice that you can just bring it in when you need to kill a larger creature. And the main thing that you want this against is Leyline of Sanctity. Previously, before the set, Red-Black did not have a way to kill Leyline of Sanctity, so this is a nice upgrade to previous removal spells that were played in its slot. So yeah, that is the deck list, and we will be back in just a little bit for round number 1. Alright, we're here for round number 1. We have lost the die roll, so we'll go ahead and show our opponent our Lurrus. Alright, let's see what we have here. We have a bit of an interesting hand. Our opponent has not shown us a companion, so no information there. I mean, This hand is not unreasonable to keep, because we are in the draw, and we do have essentially 5 castable spells. It's a little risky, but I tend to keep these one-landers like this. I think I would say that there's a decent chance with this hand we can reasonably miss once or twice and still potentially be in the game, because we have so many castable spells. And I would argue that if we draw a single land in our first draw step, we might be a big favorite, depending on what they're playing, of course. So I imagine they're probably just going to take the Lightning Bolt, because it's really the only unique card in our hand. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to take a creature. As I say that, they take a creature. I'm not really sure what that tells me about their hand, but... okay, so a bit of an interesting situation here. In general, you want to hold the bauble for more prowess triggers. So, like, let's say this was a second land. I would go land, Soul Scar, turn 2, land, Swift Spear, bauble, and I get 2 damage out of my bauble. Because we only have 1 land, and we really want to cycle this to get our second land, I'm going to play Swift Spear first. Just so I can get my damage now, as opposed to later. And I'm just going to bauble my opponent in their upkeep. The reason you want to do it in their upkeep is you want to get the information, but you don't want them, because they're a Thoughtseize deck, you don't want them to be able to Thoughtseize or Inquisition the card that you draw off the bauble. And they revealed a Tarmogoyf, which could be problematic, because it is large. Ooh, I like what I see. Bomat Courier. They're not playing Tarmogoyf. That's interesting. It tells me they probably very clearly have a Fatal Push here. They're just going to dismember now. Okay. Play around Mutagenic Growth that way. Makes sense. No land. It's unfortunate. The Soulscar bricks the Bomat anyway, so I'm just going to play a Soulscar Mage here. Yeah, I mean, we kept the sketchy hand. We bricked on 3 draw steps. A little unfortunate, but that's obviously the risk of keeping a hand like this. But, I mean, if I was given the decision again, I still think I would keep the hand again, so. On the play, I would certainly mulligan, but on the draw, I think it's a reasonable keep. Same thing. Just play another Soulscar. It's very interesting to me that our opponent did not reveal Lurrus. I wonder why that is. The only thing I could reasonably think of is that they maybe just have Lurrus in their main deck. Because I don't really understand why else you wouldn't play Lurrus. So we're going to play a 5/6 here. I mean, they're at 5. We do technically have 5 damage in our hand. If we can draw a couple lands in a row. Okay. So what I think I'm going to do is... I think I'm just going to play land and pass. 5, 10... 11, go to 6. I'm trying to think if they have a Temur Battle Rage. This isn't lethal. It's only 11 damage, so I can go to 6. Fetch Basic Swamp, bolt them, Cling to Dust Cycle to try and find land number 3, so that gives me 2 shots at a 3rd land, and or another Lightning Bolt. And I don't think Bomat Courier is really going to do a whole lot, because I can't get a damage in now. So let's say I play Bomat, pass, end step, Lightning Bolt them, they go to 2, I can attack for 1, but that only benefits me if I draw a haste creature, which, if I bolt them, they go to 2 and I draw a haste creature, I can just cast 2 haste creatures anyways. So I think this is better, because the Cling gives me 2 shots at a haste creature or 2 shots at a 3rd land. Assuming I'm not dead here, which... 7... Even if they have Mutagenic plus TBR, I wouldn't be dead, right? 5, 7, 14, 15, I'd go to 2. And then I'd fetch and go to 1. Yep, that's fine. Trying to think if there's any reason I shouldn't get a Blood Crypt here. If I get a basic swamp, I go to 10. I have to imagine that I'm probably going to die next turn anyways. And I kind of want to just make sure I have maximum red sources in play. Well, I wonder if they have their own Clang. They might. I'm just going to target their Bloodstained Mire. There we go. That's what we were looking for. Looks like they took a bit too much damage. I guess I'll Thoughtseize them first, just to get more information. No reason not to. All right, on to game number 2. I still have not seen a reason why they wouldn't show a Lurrus. The only thing I can realistically think of is that they just have Lurrus in their main deck, which kind of makes me think I might want these spell bombs, because I think they might just be playing more Lurruses. But I'm not positive on that. So, Death Shadow, Tarmogoyf, Bomat Courier, discard spells, Temur Battle Rage. Interesting. I think we're largely kind of already set up for that matchup. I don't really think there's a lot of things that I want to do. I think the games can get pretty grindy, so I kind of want this Kolaghan's Command and potentially some number of these cards to be able to kill larger creatures. I could also see Kroxa being reasonable. Like, I could honestly see any of these cards being things that I want in this matchup. I obviously, and probably don't have that many cards to bring out, but what I think I want to do, I don't normally do this in these matchups, but I want to try experimenting with cutting all of the discard. Just because I think these matchups can go pretty long, and you don't want to have dead cards in your hand later in the game. So I kind of want to see how this plays out. So we'll bring in K-Command. I'll bring in the Kroxas. I think I'll bring in the Rampages and one Feed the Swarm. I want to see how this goes. I don't want both Feed the Swarms. The only thing that's nice about the discard spells is it kind of sort of protects you against Temur Battle Rage. But in general, I don't even know if that's a card that they should be leaving in, so. Now they show the Lurrus. I wonder if they just misclick game 1. Hand's not perfect, but it has lands and spells, and this is a matchup where card quantity usually matters more than card quality, so I'm going to keep this. And they mulligan, which is good. Them mulliganing on the play is very good for us. Stayed on 6, and they didn't play a 1-drop. So which card do I want to throw to the wolves? Because I assume they have a removal spell here. It's probably just going to be Soulscar Mage. And here, because I have enough land drops, I'm not going to play my Bauble because I want to get my maximum prowess triggers. So next turn, for example, if this doesn't die, I can go Swift Spear, Bomat, Bauble, and I get 2 damage out of this as opposed to the 1 from the Swift Spear. They Cling Dusted their own land. Okay. I would bet they're playing a Tarmogoyf here. Oh, they're playing a Kroxa. Interesting. I'm not sure if I want to discard my 3rd land or the 2nd Soulscar. I think I'm actually going to discard the 2nd Soulscar here. I kind of want to keep all my land drops to make sure I have enough for Lurrus guaranteed. And if I do draw an extra land and they flash this back on turn 4, I can just discard the 4th land. Ideally, I just want to draw, I was going to say a Fatal Push or some removal spell like that. So let's go Swift Spear, Bomat, Bauble. I'm going to attack for 5 and then bobble them in their upkeep. Let's see what we got going on here. Assassin's Trophy. I'm still wondering if this was a misclick or if this is part of their sideboard plan where they're not a Lurrus deck game 1, but they board into a Lurrus deck. Like, example, maybe they have main deck Liliana's and they value that more game 1 and then they value this more game 2, something like that. I'm not sure, though. I would expect a Death Shadow here, yeah. Just hopefully not 2. I'm okay against 1 Death Shadow. 2 is a little bit scarier. Okay. Interesting. So they're not quite dead. Let's cast this bauble. I'm trying to think of how this works out. So, assuming that I sack the Seal of Fire in combat, this wave is a 5/6. And I have 2 4/5s attacking. So if I attack with both of these, they do have to block both. They don't know they have to block both because they don't know I have bolt. But if I attack with both, they block, 5/6. I bolt this and seal this. Yeah, that actually works. So this attack is going to either kill them or kill both of their creatures. Trying to figure out if I should attack with the Bomat too. I should, right? Because if they block the Bomat, they're dead. Yeah. Yeah, so this attack is good for a lot of reasons. It's basically going to kill their entire board. 3, 4... Yep. So this is not lethal because it's only 6 damage, so we're just going to Lightning Bolt their Tarmogoyf. And it's -3 counters because we have a Soulscar Mage. And then we're going to Seal Fire their Death Shadow. We kill both of their things. I guess I'll play this tapped. And I will bubble them in their upkeep. We know they have a trophy and an unknown. I guess I should have paid 2 life for the Blood Crypt in case they decide to kill the Bomat now. The 2 life is pretty marginal, and just holding up the Bomat Courier activation is probably worth it there. They're drawing Soul Guide Lantern, which looks marginal, but if they can manage the board, it's actually quite good, because one of my ways of getting back from that would be Lurrus, but Soul Guide basically blanks the Lurrus. But again, that's assuming they can manage the board, which we know they have a trophy, but they played 2 creatures last turn as opposed to Shadow plus removal spell. From their perspective, it was a good play, because we were low on cards. We ended up drawing very well off the bobble in our draw step, but... yeah, so they're in a pretty tough spot here. If they have something like Shadow plus kill one of my creatures... well, now we know their last 2 cards, right? So they're going to Kroxa here. Which puts us to 15. But they're dead to a lot of cards. Seal Fire, Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push, Feed the Swarm, Kolaghan's Command... that probably does it too, although we have to draw a spell off of it. I'm going to cycle it first, though. Does not do it. Interesting. So I have a couple of options here. We know their last two cards are Trophy Soul Guide. It's 15. Trying to think. If I attack with everything, they likely block here. They take 3, go to 2, and then we can post-combat sacrifice this to try and spike a burn spell. Or I could play the Soul Scar Mage and just leave everything in play with them at 2. So this would die, we'd replace it with this. They'd be at 2, we'd have 3 creatures. We'd even have a mana up to sack the Bomat. That line loses to Team or Battle Rage, though, because... Well, because we could sack the Bomat in combat and try and, before this trigger, and try and draw a spell to discard to the Kroxa. And then we would be at 15, this would only be 12. I think I'm just going to do that, actually. I doubt they're going to block the Bomat here. They might. They might block the Bomat and go to 1, but that's better for us because we can just sack this now. The reason I'm not playing my land first is because if, let's say, they block the Bomat and decide to go to 1, I want to be able to sack this, and if there's land plus untapped land plus Feed the Swarm, I want to be able to cast Feed the Swarm. Also, Kroxa, there's a good number of 2-drops that I would need to be able to find here. Okay, so they're going to go to 2. We're going to play a Soul Scar. We'll play our land. We'll pass. So now the onus is on them. Again, we know they have Trophy plus Soul Guide Lantern. They drew Peatland. Okay, so they'll probably start the turn by sacking that. I don't think there's much of a reason to sack the Bomat end of turn. I'd rather just get an extra card off of it. Again, just trying to find a lethal burn spell at this point. Or a Fatal Push. They may or may not... I was going to say they may or may not kill the Bomat now to force the activation. Well, from their perspective, I guess if they have nothing, they can't attack. So them not attacking is obviously very good for us. Because assuming they can only kill 1 creature, if they attack, we just take it. They kill 1 creature, they take 2 damage, so they can't really attack here. So we'll just untap. That should be good enough. Again, I had a lot of outs there, so... Good number of outs. So yeah, now they trophy one of these. This one's lethal. Got the GGs. Alrighty. Pretty interesting first match. Again, I found it very strange that they didn't reveal Lurrus Game 1. I'm still not sure, again, if that was a misclick or if that's a calculated decision where they just want to stray away from Lurrus Game 1 and maybe morph into it post-board when the games get grindier. Maybe they're more focused on Team or Battle Rage, things like that Game 1. But in any case, pretty interesting match. Hope everybody enjoyed it, and I will see you back in just a little bit for round number 2. Alright, everybody, we're back here for round number 2. We are on the draw once again. We'll go ahead and show our opponent our Lurrus. Alrighty, what do we have here? We're on the draw. We have a Thoughtseize, some removal spells, and an Abbot. It seems like a pretty reasonable keep here. Opponent mulligans to 6. This hand has a much more Jund vibe than a Prowess vibe. That's one thing I really like about this deck, is it plays both sides of the coin so well. It's a very, I guess dynamic is the word that I look for. Very dynamic deck. I think it's worth fetching to Thin here. It's pretty marginal, but... Let's see what they're working with. They have a Stoneforge, an Apparition, and a Company. Okay, well, the nice thing is we don't really... We're not going to really present a target for Apparition anytime soon, and we have plenty of removal spells for the Stoneforge Mystic. I think the scariest card is this Collected Company. Obviously, this Apparition does deal with our Lurrus pretty effectively, but ideally, we have 5 more discard spells. Ideally, we can either present a target in the meantime before our Lurrus for them to Apparition, or we can just find another discard spell before we deploy our Lurrus. So. Like, it's tough, because all of their cards are 2-for-1s, so it's hard to figure out. Basically, and they have a card on each spot of the curve, so you can either... I think the 2 reasonable options there are the Collected Company, which is the card that provides them the most value, or Stoneforge Mystic to keep them off curve. The reason I don't like taking Stoneforge is because we have so many clean answers for it. Like, yes, they have a Batterskull, but the Batterskull is A, a long ways away, and B, we can also just maybe manage the Batterskull with Fatal Push. So here I'm just going to play Bowman and bolt their Stoneforge. And here we see the situation that I mentioned before, where now we have presented them with a decent Apparition target because they want to play this on curve, and now that Apparition is not targeting our Lurrus. They decided to deploy a Scavenging Ooze, okay. So we know they have Apparition, Batterskull, X. It's a decent draw. So now we can actually crack this fetch, Fatal Push their Ooze, and play a Bomat Courier. Or I could try and deploy an Abbot here. We could play an Abbot, see what we hit off the Abbot, and then if we brick off the Abbot, we can Fatal Push. The reason I kind of want to hold Abbot is to potentially hit a 2-drop off of it next turn. The reason I would want to play Abbot here is because it uses our mana much more efficiently. If we go Abbot plus Mire Fatal Push, we can Bomat plus Lurrus next turn. So I actually think that's a good enough reason for me to just play the Abbot here. Just pure mana efficiency. Okay, well, we could cast that. The problem is it doesn't really do much against their Ooze anyways, because they just get to eat whatever we target. So I think I'm just going to get a basic Swamp in and Fatal Push this. Just going to do it now. They'll probably end up gaining a life, which is okay. Not really a point for them to exile any of our cards, because none of these we can get back with... Oh, never mind. I was going to say none of them we can get back with Lurrus, so I'm wondering why they wouldn't rather just gain a life there. I guess they don't know that we're not playing Kroxa, so maybe they're making our graveyard smaller in case we draw Kroxa. I guess the Apparition this turn is a little more annoying because it bricks our 2 Bowmats, so they just Apparition this. But... Oh, another Scavenging is interesting. They're definitely saving the Apparition for Lurrus, which makes a lot of sense. So let's cast a Bauble. I think what I might do is play land, play Bomat, pre-combat, attack with both before block sack the Bomat to try and hit a removal spell for the Scavenging Ooze. And then worst case, basically I'm trading this for 3 cards, so I'm still getting I'm still up 2 cards off of this. Worst case I brick, they either trade or take 3. I don't really care which they do, and then post combat we can get the Lurrus. So I think I'm gonna do that. Just cash in our Bomat while we can. And I want to do this before blocks because I would prefer them to not trade. Yeah, and this is good for us because now we can just play the Soulscar Mage. They're going to eat our Bomat. Makes sense. So they're going to take 4 damage, go to 10. We're going to deploy a Soulscar. They're likely going to Apparition something. Not sure what they would Apparition, though. I'm just going to bobble them now. Get more information. They're drawing a land, which isn't bad for them. Closer to this Batterskull. My guess is that they would probably just kill the Abbot because it's more damage output, and their life total is getting a little low, so they kind of have to be a little bit worrisome of that. I think the Soulscar is a better card. If they were a higher life total, I would say they could consider killing this, or even the Bomat Courier. It all depends on what they value more. Looks like they're going to fetch. Just mono scavenging uses, okay. There is... Yep, there definitely are 2 creatures in the graveyard. It's not the worst draw. I have to think here. I think if I want to shove everything... 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, because if they block the Bomat, they're dead. Because it would be 3, 5, 2 prowess triggers here is 7, 2 prowess triggers here is 9, plus 3 is 12. They can only go to 11 off the ooze. So I am willing to send the Bomat here. Three, 4, 5. Okay, well they have to act here because they're blocking a 2/3 on it with a 2/2. So I think I'll pass priority once. Let's see what they want to do. So my option here is I could let that go. How does this play out? I let that go, then I cling one of their lands, right? My creature would be a 3/4. They have to let the cling resolve because if they target the land, it's just a chump block. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so I think I let this go. And now, again, before damage, we cling their Foothills. Now, if they choose to exile the Foothills in response, obviously we don't get the draw card. But this would still be a chump block. So they kind of have to act again. And if they do act again to make this a 4/4, I could just bolt them. This would be a 4/5. They would go to 8, and then they would take 5 and go to 3. Yep, so they're going to exile the Mystic. That's fine. I don't care too much about that. And now we bolt them. So they end up on 8. They take 6 and go to 2, excuse me. Now I think we play our land. Guess we can bobble ourselves to try and find a burn spell, because we have the fetch land. Magmatic Channeler is not something I'm interested at this juncture. It's not a bad card, but again, they have Batterskull. I kind of want to just try and find a burn spell to close it out. They drew the Channeler anyways. Yeah, so they're going to Apparition the Abbot, I would imagine. But then they're in a bad spot, right? Because then they're going to kill that. I guess that makes sense. Because now they get to trade with the Abbot. So we'll play Lurrus. We'll cast Mishra's Bauble. This is a forced block, so I don't have to play anything pre-combat. I could have cracked the Canyon there, but if I brick, I don't get to play the Channeler, and I think that's more important. So we'll just put them to 1. Now they can't even fetch, which is good. They're drawing a Stoneforge, which I don't think is going to get them out of this. Alright, got game number 1. So, Naya Company, Stoneforge, Apparition. Okay, interesting. So we have 5 Shatters, potentially, up to 5 Shatters. And I don't think I want anything else, actually. I think the rest of these cards are pretty marginal. I could consider Feed the Swarm, but a lot of their creatures are, most of their creatures are small, so I don't really, I'm not in the market for, or I don't really need another, you know, Terminate type card. My damage base removal is going to be good enough. Braid is certainly the best of these options, I think, followed by Kolaghan's Command. And I think Cling to Dust is not great. It is okay against Scavenging Ooze, because you can kind of mess with their math a little bit, but I think that's just a little too narrow. And I think everything else is good. The only other thing I could consider is cutting the Unearth, because they showed me so many Scavenging Oozes, which is a possibility. Also, most of the removal is probably exile-based. So maybe I'll just bring in a Rampage. Just to have another Shatter-type card. The Edict is not going to be great because they have so many creatures and they can usually afford to expend one. It's mostly just going to be for killing swords, things like that. Yeah, I mean, basically the same as last hand, lands and spells. Can't ask for more than 2 removal spells, 2 creatures, and 3 lands. Likely killing whatever this is. Unless it has protection from red and black. Well, I guess protection from red. Forge Tender. Wild Nicatl. I have not seen Wild Nicatl in a minute. Alright, so we have to figure out how we want to play this game. I think we have enough removal spells that I'm kind of in on just killing this, and if they play Stoneforge, we can go Swift Spear plus kill the Stoneforge and still have a Brain in our hand. So, I will just... I'm just going to bolt it now. I'm going to end up bolting it. So I just want to kill it now. In case they have something weird in their deck. It's not ideal. Not ideal. Hopefully we can just go around it. Let's see. What do we want to do here? I think I'm still going to deploy the Swift Spear. Then we'll play Bauble Fetch Land. Depending on what they do, we can figure out whether or not we want to draw our top card. Auriac Champion is good, but as long as we kill everything else around it, we might just be able to go wide enough around it. Okay, it's going to be tough to beat. I did not register any Kozilek's Returns in my deck. which may or may not have been a poor decision. 2 Auroch champions is much harder to beat than 1. I will say that. The first one is, I'm not going to say it's irrelevant, but it's pretty marginal. The second one gets a lot better. Soulscar Mage. I think we do actually want to draw that. I think our best bet at beating these champions is, again, just going wide. So I think I'm going to get a Swamp here. And I'm going to fire off a Thoughtseize. Just to hopefully snag a company. Whoa. Well, we have a Braid for these two, so I'm definitely taking company. We'll play a Soulscar and a tap land. It's possible that was supposed to be a Lurrus turn, but I guess now if they draw a red source, they can cleave us. They would have to attack with both, though. It's also a good card against us. I should probably leave... I was going to say leave 1 back. 1 was probably a free attack there. So we can try and get Lurrus going, or we can just start the Abbott train. Abbott gives us the potential to go wide here. Like, if we hit a land, we can play a second Abbott and just try and go super wide and win that way. This game's definitely going to be a slog, though. I don't think we're out of it quite yet, but it's getting worse for us, for sure. I'll easily take that. See, this is actually good for us, because now we're gonna play Abbott first. Let's see where we go from there. Okay. So now we can cast this Bauble. We could potentially get in a pretty decent-sized attack here. Yeah, I'm just going to attack with everything. And if they decide to double block an Abbott, then we can use Fatal Push and the Voice of Resurgence. Okay. They do gain more life off of this, but... So we pushed 9 damage through. Not ideal, but... Here we are. We kind of have to hope this doesn't become a 4/4, because we currently wouldn't be able to kill him if that was the case. Alright, so we're definitely going to bobble ourselves, because we're looking for spells here. Wooded Foothills is not a spell, so we'll shuffle. Bomat's technically a spell. It's not a non-creature spell. There we go. That is ideal. So we get a potential to push a little bit more damage through here. So we can just Fatal Push the Elemental. Yeah, see, this is good for me. And you'll notice in all these exchanges, we're not losing anything and we're still pushing damage through. This is how you beat Auriok Champion when you're playing a red-black deck. And it's, honestly, it's not that difficult. You just kill everything else they play. So over the past couple turns, we've traded essentially 2 cards because the bauble replaced itself. And we've killed, I mean, obviously we had 2-for-1 ourselves to kill the voice, but we also dealt, 14 damage because they were at 28. So we've halved their life total in the course of 2 turns versus 2 active champions. Okay. It's annoying. Again, it just makes us 2-for-1 ourselves again. I think if we draw Fatal Push, are they dead? So they're going to go to 16. They would go to 18 if we kill this, and then the Elemental. They would block these 2. They would take 3, 6, 9, 10. So they'd go to 8. Can't imagine they attack here. Attacking is so risky. Alright, that'll do it. I know they have Batterskull in their hand, but I kind of just have to try and push some damage through here. So I'm just going to kill their voice with these 2 Abrades, attack with everything. I could wait until combat, but then they would get a free block with this, which prevents more damage that way. So I think it's better to do this. So this is going to put them at 8. 3, 6, 9, 10, yeah. Assuming they block the 2 abbots. They didn't have Path last turn. They obviously could have drawn Path, which it looks like they did. That's unfortunate. That makes this attack a lot worse. Wow, they're pathing the Bomat. Interesting. So this actually still puts them to 8, because they took a damage to prevent a damage. I have to imagine they probably have company here, which probably can't beat a company. But I think we've done pretty well so far, given the fact that our opponent played turn 2 champion, turn 3 champion. I mean, this attack is technically lethal. We're probably never beating a company anyways, so might as well attack. Yeah. Maybe they brick. Narrator, they did not brick. Yeah, I guess technically we might still be able to win. We can bolt the Bone Crusher before blocks. Okay. Guess now they get to double block an Abbot. Sure. I mean, we're still not in that bad of a spot. Like, now they slam Batterskull, but we could just draw a Shatter, which we have 3 left. Yeah. That's not a Shatter. Now they're going to put Embercleave on the Germ token. And we can't actually draw an instant speed Shatter because both of our Braids are gone. So the best we can do is draw Kolaghan's Command or Angrass Rampage, both of which we would not be able to cast in our opponent's turn. So I don't think we can beat Embercleave plus Batterskull. I mean, honestly, for them playing turn 2 champion, turn 3 champion, that game was incredibly close, even though they stayed in play for, 6 turns. Just goes to show you the power of this deck, where, like, a lot of people seem to think that you just play an Auric Champion against the red-black deck and you win on the spot. That's just not the truth, you know? The red-black deck has so much play to it. You can just kill everything else around it and just go wide, which is exactly what we did. And, you know, I mean, that game would have been incredibly easy had they didn't have the second one. If they only had one, we would have won that game by a mile. And they had two, and the game was still close. So... Alrighty, we're on the play for game number 3. And this hand is about as good as it gets. I'm going to lead on Soulscar Mage. Then I can turn to... Yeah. I'm going to save the Bauble for turn 2. Because I can bauble with the fetch land. If I like the card, I can play Mountain. If I don't like the card, I can Bloodstained Mire. And then still cast both of these. Well, I guess that's not true. Oh, I was supposed to play Mountain on turn 1 because of that. Yep, I was supposed to play Mountain on turn 1 so that I could tap Mountain, play Swift Spear with the Blood Crypt and the Mire in my hand, so that if I like the card, I could play Blood Crypt Inquisition. If I didn't like the card, I could play Bloodstained Mire Inquisition. So a bit of a missequence there. I'm just going to bolt that, sure. Interesting they got Stomping Ground, because that means they can't cast Auric Champion on turn 2. Okay, well, let's cast our Swift Spear. Let's bauble ourselves. Seal of Fire. Yeah, I guess I'll take a Seal of Fire. And we actually have no reason to Inquisition them right now because they can't Auric Champion us next turn. So I'm just going to attack for 3. And then I can crack this Bauble on myself end step, see if I also want to draw the next card. Had they fetched Sacred Foundry, this would have been a lot different, because them threatening to Auric Champion us on turn 2 would have forced us to cast Inquisition, but as is, not a whole lot I care about on turn 2. I mean, Auric Champion is priority number 1. That's the card you care about the most. And again, like I said last game, it's not like you care about it in the sense that you can't beat it. It's just that there are some games where it is a little more difficult to beat. Revealed Batterskull, makes sense. We have an Abrade on top. I will take that. Alright, let's Inquisition our opponent first. See what's going on over there. Stoneforge, Scavenging Ooze, Eidolon, Batterskull Company. It's a very interesting hand. Well, we have Seal for this Stoneforge, and we have Abrade for whatever 2-drop they play next turn. So I think I'm going to take this because it's the only one I can't actually kill. And we will play, I think, Mountain, Seal of Fire, kill your Stoneforge, attack for 3. I'll probably just thin end of turn. Very interesting match. I would imagine they'll probably just play Ooze with a mana up here, but we shall see. I'm going to play Stoneforge, interesting. Oops, I X'd the wrong one. Say Batterskull Company, Scavenging Ooze. And Maul of the Skyclave. I'm actually going to crack this Canyon first, because I'd rather use like a Lightning Bolt or a Fatal Push on this than an Abrade. Well, they don't have that luxury. I cannot let them put a Batterskull into play, I don't think. I guess now if they draw a green source, they can ooze with 2 green mana to make it a 4/4, which is kind of an issue. It's a green source. Oh, it's not a green source. So they're just going to company here. I would assume if they're not fetching a green source, they're just going to company. Yeah. Well, obviously this could go poorly if I Bomat, attack with both, and have Fatal Push up, but we're kind of in a spot where I think we have to make this play. Why are they companying now? It seems like a weird time to company. They should probably wait till combat. Alright, let's see what they hit. Voice Nicatl. Huh. So they're just going to put Nicatl on Swift Spear and Voice on Bomat. But then I can just push... Well, I guess I just push this now. They block the Bomat and then I just sack it. So I don't think they're going to chump block the Swift Spear. Yep. I'm going to fetch the Thin here. They would not die if I drew Lightning Bolt. They would go to 1. If I drew exactly Lightning Bolts off this Bomat. But I wouldn't hate drawing that. Okay. So they go to 5, you play a Soul Scar. Could be worse. Could be worse. So now they have Batterskull, Maul, Scavenging Ooze, 2 unknowns. And because they fetch Basic Mountain, they can't Scavenging Ooze activate twice, so Lightning Bolt's still good on Scavenging Ooze. Obviously, if they have another company, that would be rough. Wooded Foothills. Or are they just going to go to 3 to play Batterskull? Oh, okay. Well, we haven't drawn a Lightning Bolt yet, so there's still 4 in the deck. I'll take one of those right about now. Basic Swamp A. Alright, unfortunate, but that's how it goes. I think we're in a pretty bad spot now. Because now they just maul this. They go back to 9. Yeah, they definitely gave us some opportunities to win that game. I think I like the lines that I took. Obviously, the line that I attacked into their company was a little aggressive, but like the other alternative is just sit there and do nothing. They cast the company, they get a bunch of value off of it. Like, I mean, I guess I'll play on, but I don't think I can win anymore. It's gonna get an Embercleave. Alright, we're definitely did an Embercleave. Yeah, a little unfortunate. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Have to go back and watch that one, maybe. Close match. See you back in just a little bit for round number 3. Back here for round number 3. We are 0 for 3 on die rolls. One of those days. And we have a perfectly acceptable hand. Again, nothing crazy, but decent mix of lands and spells. Scalding Tarn for Stomping Ground. Oh, so they're playing Burn. Against Burn, how do I want to play this? This is tough. Very, very tough. I'm trying to think if they play an Eidolon. Like, what I wanted to do was just play Soulscar and pass. And then next turn I can go Swift Spear, Bauble, Thoughtseize, attack for 6. But obviously they could have Searing Blaze, which would be bad. But not much I can do about that. The one punish for not playing the Bauble here is Eidolon of the Great Rebel. Because I don't have an answer to it. But I think, being on the draw against Burn, I have to get a little lucky to win anyways, and I think this gives me the best shot at winning, so I'm just going to make this play. Copperline Gorge. Okay. Bolt my Swift Spear, attack for 4. Ugh, really needed a removal spell there. Not trying one of my, 10 1-mana removal spells here is kind of rough. I guess I just played 2 creatures here. Kind of have to cycle this Bauble now, though. Because I really need to find a removal spell. I'll just cycle it on their turn. Let's see what they're drawing. And the good news is they're down to 2 cards, but they're drawing another Copperline Gorge, which is mostly a blank. Ooh, also a blank. So they only have 1 unknown card. Well, 2 now, but... Ooh. That I like to see. And we're also drawing a Lightning Bolt. That was best case scenario, because this means they almost certainly don't have a spell. Yes. So we're at 12. Let's think about this. I'm trying to think if there's even a reason to cast Thoughtseize here. I don't actually think there is, because if they had a Lightning Bolt, I feel like they would have just bolted this and attacked, and then they could just play the 3rd land and Rift Bolt me next turn, right? So I'm going to assume that their last card is not a 1-mana spell. It could be a 2-mana spell. But I feel like it's more likely to be it's certainly more likely to be a land than a 1-mana spell. So I think I'm actually not even going to cast this Thoughtseize. I think I'm just going to attack and see what they do. If they declare no blocks, I'll just kill both of their creatures and deal 6, but... Now they might even have to fight over our creatures, and once we get into a spot where they're fighting over our creatures, then we're a huge favorite. Another Rift Bolt. And they didn't play the Copperline Gorge. I guess they're saving it for Searing Blaze. So do we want to Seal Fire, or do we want to put Lurrus in our hand? We Seal Fire, they go to 5 with the Seal Fire in play, which makes them dead to bolts. And if they kill something, we can unearth it. Yeah, I think I like that better. I could also Thoughtseize here, which would effectively put them to 1. And it would put me at 4. Which means they would need 2 spells, because with them at 1, they can't cast Boros Charm. Yeah, I'm going to Thoughtseize them here. I kind of figured that there was 2 lands in there, but I also just think that that's... Oh, no, we just have lethal. What am I saying? Because we can unearth the Soulscar Mage. I'm dumb. Yeah, okay. I missed that there was already a creature in our graveyard, but in any case. Up a game versus Burn. So we definitely want a Braid. Excuse me. And I think that's it. Right, I mean, Rampage is kind of clunky. Kolaghan's Command is really slow. Feed the Swarm is really clunky and also makes us lose life. Yeah, I think it's just these Abrades. And I think I'm just going to cut the Kolaghan's Command because it's very clunky, and then one of the Thoughtseizes because I don't really ever want to draw 2 of these. I don't mind drawing the first copy, but the second one is kind of suspect. So let's just do that. Circular Lurrus. This is not the kind of hand that I like on the draw. I almost want to mulligan it. I think having Thoughtseize on the draw and having no removal spells... I think I'm actually supposed to mulligan this hand, as crazy as that sounds. Yeah, I'm gonna mulligan. This hand is significantly better. I think I'll just put the Bauble back. Yeah, I'm much more in on this hand than the first hand. Revealed Bomat Courier. I'm going to play Bloodstained Mire and pass. What I'm likely going to do is cast Fatal Push this turn off of basic Swamp. Yeah, I'm certainly casting Fatal Push. Let's get our trigger. And I want to cast Fatal Push here so I can afford to... I guess I'm probably just going to play this untapped anyways. But if I get Mountain and cast Bolt, then I can't cast 2 removal spells off of this next turn, so I have to get Swamp and cast Fatal Push so I can cast 2 next turn. And I guess if I'm planning on casting 2 next turn, I should probably just minimize damage this turn. And I think I want to kill these now, because they could have a Tarka's Command. Or at least I can bolt one. I could save the push. The push I don't have to cast now, because the push is not conditional. It's possible I'm supposed to take a damage there in case they have Eidolon. Yeah, it's a little unfortunate. Maybe I threw there. Now I'm in a really bad spot. They also didn't play a land, so they have 3 spells in their hand, which is bad. I'm not even really sure what my path to victory is here. Take a look and see what's on top. Magmatic Channeler. Yeah, I guess we're just gonna go to 7 here. I don't think we can realistically win this game now. Yeah, I guess that was a throw. I should have just taken the damage there. Made a much better spot if I just kill the Eidolon. I have to double block here. As gross as this is, I think I have to make this block. They brought in Revelry against me? That is very strange. We have 4 actual targets in our deck. Why would they bring in Revelry? I don't really understand that. In any case... yeah, nothing changes. Yeah, that's a game I probably easily win if I just kill the Eidolon. I just got a little too trigger happy. I am very surprised that they brought in Destructive Revelry. Very surprised. What would they even think that I would have? I'm trying to think of a card that red black would even have that makes sense. I don't know. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I just don't know what that reason is. Well, this hand has 3 black spells and no black mana, so I think we're going back. This hand is acceptable. I actually think I might just put back the Thoughtseize and just go full beatdown here. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Like, even if they wanted to bring in Revelry for Bomat Courier, that's just not a good exchange. They're trading down on mana. It's really clunky. Alright, just gonna play a bunch of creatures. Hopefully get them dead quickly. This is the type of hand that I want against Burn. Just pour on the pressure. Because I think we can do a pretty good job at racing them. Because we have enough removal spells where we can kill their damage outputs. And like if they play an Eidolon here, we can just kill it, play a Bomat. Be at 11. They'd be at 10. Searing Blaze would be annoying. Searing Blaze is one of their better cards in the matchup for sure. Well, they don't have Searing Blaze. Let's... yeah, I'm just going to ignore this Thoughtseize. They have a Destructive Revelry. Seems like they have something. Guess I shouldn't F6 in case they decide to Revelry the Steelfire for some reason. So they're not killing anything, which looks like they're just going to try and kill me. Like a Skullcrack or something. Can't cast Boros Charm. They cast nothing? Well, that is insane for me. What's in their hand? That was very strange. I don't think that they meant to do that, or I don't know what happened. Okay. I will get a mountain. That one I will cast. Maybe they're killing my Swift Spear here. If they go to Revelry this Bowmat, I'm 100% sacrificing it. Because I don't want this card in my hand anyways. They're dealing 3 to me and putting a land into play. Okay. They have a lightning bolt as well. They're bolting me. Okay. They're at 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, your turn. I mean, they don't have a burn spell. If they crack this, this isn't a white source either. So if they crack this, they can't draw Boros Charm plus Bolt. Sure. Still lethal, though, because they kill this and we have 4 here. Yep, okay. Very interesting plays from our opponent. I'm not sure if they had Path to Exile in their hand the turn when they passed with 2 mana. They just didn't realize they didn't have a white source. Not really sure. But, yeah, overall, interesting matchup. I think, well, obviously, when we have hands like this, I think we're a pretty big favorite, because we can keep up with their creatures a lot better than they can keep up with ours, because they have cards like Lava Spike and Atarkus Command, which don't kill creatures. So we have a lot more ways to mitigate their source of constant damage outputs than they do, which I think gives us an edge when we have draws like this. So yeah, overall interesting match, and see you back here for, was it round number 4? Yeah, round number 4. Alright everybody, we're back for round number 4, and it looks like we're going to get a rematch here. We're playing against the opponent we just played against, so probably on burn again, but we won the die roll this time, so we like that. Let's see. Seeing this little suspect. Yeah. Sand is quite good if we do draw a land, but I think, yeah, I think I'm just going to mulligan this in the play. The sand I think I like a lot more. I can bin this Colligan's Command. I can go turn 1 Swift Spear, turn 2 Swift Spear, Thoughtseize, or Fatal Push. Just get Basic Mountain. We can get Basic Mountain, Basic Swamp, and still do the exact same thing that we said. I could Thoughtseize on turn 1. And then Swift Spear plus Fatal Push on turn 2. Yeah, I don't know if I like that as much. I don't know why they didn't seal on my turn. Or on their turn. Like if I just had a Lightning Bolt here, they kind of get really punished. Yeah, I'm still going to Swift Spear plus Thoughtseize here. The next turn I can seal plus push. I'm not really sure why they didn't seal on their turn. Oh, they're not... Oh. Well, I think once I cast the Thoughtseize, they know that I'm going to take the Incinerator. That's when they should probably seal my Swift Spear. Because now they just took 2 damage for almost no reason. Because they know I'm going to take their Incinerator, right? Which means that they don't need this seal anymore. Because the reason they didn't seal is because they wanted the Incinerator. They draw another Incinerator? Oh, that's unfortunate. That was the absolute worst case scenario. Well, here we are. I guess I'll cling their seal. Just need to cycle into something here. They're 14. Yeah, I don't know if we have any outs here. I meant to play the Swift Spear, but... Yeah, this is bad. That is unfortunate. Well, I still think they were supposed to seal fire my Swift Spear, but they obviously ended up getting rewarded for not doing so. Because obviously they didn't know that they were drawing a second Incinerator, but... Unfortunate. That's one of those ways we can lose that game. Didn't expect that card. So we'll do the same thing we did the last time. And hope to dodge that exact situation again. That was very, very unfortunate. I thought we were a huge favorite to win that game. I think if they draw any other card that's not Incinerator, I don't think we can lose that game. But to that exact card, it's basically impossible from that spot. He doesn't have any threats, but I think it is still worth keeping. We could Bauble Scry to look for a threat on turn. What does this card even do? Whenever you and or at least one permanent you control becomes a target of a spell or ability, deals 2 damage to that player. Sure. Let's play a Bauble and a fetch. Pass turn. I don't really think this card is good against us, but we'll see. They chose to sideboard it in, so... Wooded Foothills, no thank you. To pay 4 life to Thoughtseize them, is that even worth it? Probably not. I'm actually just going to play Cliffs and pass. I can cycle this into turn. I want to hold up a Braid in case I want to be mana efficient, so then I can cycle this and try and find like a 2-drop or something. Looks like they're not doing anything, so we'll just target their Foothills. And I think we're just going to make this a Lurrus turn. I'll get basic Swamp, and I mean, I guess in case they decided to bring in Blood Moon, which I'm not sure they have, but we still can't cast Lurrus if they Blood Moon anyways, but just so we can cast, like, Fatal Push and things like that. I don't really know if they're a Blood Moon deck or not. Suspend Rough Bolt, Lava Spike me. Sure. Still don't really want to play this Thoughtseize. I think I'll just attack for 1, play a Soul Scar, play a tap land. Like, Thoughtseizing them isn't bad if they have an Incinerator in their hand. Well, looks like we're just going to die anyways. Yeah, I mean, the hand that we kept was good against a bunch of early creatures, and they just had all burn spells, so our draw just didn't line up well against theirs. It is what it is. Alright, hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back for the 5th and final round in just a little bit. Alright, we're here for the 5th and final round of our league with RB Prowess. We won the die roll, so we'll choose to play. Did not get the burn opponent for the 3rd round in a row. What we do have is basically a perfect hand. I'm going to cast the Bauble on turn 1, but I'm not going to crack it. Because I want to save it for the fetch land. Like, example, we draw a land that isn't a fetch land, we Bauble ourselves. If we want to keep it, we can play the Channeler off the land. Maybe if we don't draw a land and we really want to keep the top card, we can just play Thoughtseize this turn. Something along those lines. Like, say they play a 1-drop and we see a Fatal Push on top or something like that. They revealed a companion. I didn't actually see what it was. It's a Lurrus. Okay. Could be the Lurrus Jund deck that's floating around. Well, let's bobble ourselves. Kind of looking for another threat here. Like, if there's a top card, if the top card's a land, I'm probably just going to shuffle it away. I think the only way I wouldn't cast Channeler here is if the top card was... I guess I'd probably want to keep a 1-drop. Yeah, Mountain I'm just going to shuffle away. I'm just going to play Channeler here. I'm going to get Blood Crypts. They're likely... Well, they can't be a Blood Moon deck because they're a Lurrus deck, so... This is probably going to get bolted or fatal pushed, but... The problem with Thought Seizing them is they just kill my Spear in response. And then we're in a spot where if we don't draw a land, we can't really use our mana all that efficiently. So I get the 2-drop out of my hand, and then next turn I can double spell. Well, the next 2 turns I can double spell, guaranteed. Obviously, it would have been a little awkward if they played Tarmogoyf there, because that's a card we would want to Thought Seize, because we don't have a Fatal Push in our hand, but... That is fine. That is also fine. So they're either going to take the Thoughtseize to protect something, or just take our threat. Give us a little tell on what's in their hand. Okay, so they're protecting a 3-drop. Well, that's the classic Thoughtseize bug. Let's see what they were trying to protect. Looks like Lightning Bolts. Yeah, I guess I'll take Bolt. It's kind of close. I could have cycled Klingodos to try and hit a land there, but I kind of want to just get this Bomat going. I think I want to prioritize that. Okay. They're going to Lurrus here. Interesting. Okay. It's weird that they would Lurrus there, because they don't actually have anything to Lurrus back right now. I'm just going to cycle one of these Klings. And... yeah, I'm actually going to get the Bomat going here. Because they have these 2 Swift Spears, I want to make sure I get these going as quickly as possible, because the Swift Spears kind of just brick them both. So I think, again, I'd rather prioritize getting cards into the Bomat before I play this. They had to have drawn a Bauble. Oh, wow, they didn't. That is a very interesting play. We'll cycle this Kling again. Just trying to hit a Bolt or something, or a Fatal Push. I think I'm just going to play Soulscar and Bauble. And pass. I want to cycle the Bauble here, because I really want to try and find an answer for this in case they have a Bauble or they draw a Bauble. Blood Crypts. Okay, so we still know about 2 Swift Spears and a Blood Crypt. Looks like they're playing the Swift Spears. I would say we're in an okay spot. Not a great spot, but an okay spot. That is fine with me. So we know about Swift Spear, Blood Crypt, X. I find it very hard to believe that their last card is a removal spell. Because if, like, let's say, for example, their last card was Lightning Bolt. They would have just played this untapped, attacked with everything. Right? Cast this pre-combat, have 1 card in their hand. So I could make this double block. But if I make the double block, this dies, they play a second Swift Spear, they're at 8 life. They have 2 Swift Spears, I have a bow mat with 2 cards under it, and I'm drawing an extra card. So I'll have 2 cards in my hand. If I take it, I go to 10, they go to 8, they play a Swift Spear. I think I'm actually going to take it here. It's really close. There's also a chance that they do have a removal spell. They just... No, there's... I just find it so hard to believe that they have a removal spell in their hand. I'm going to assume their last card's a blank. Well, looks like we get to find out anyways. And... yeah, I guess we'll see what it is. I'm going to assume it's a land. But I might as well take a peek. I'm going to attack with these two and just try and hope I draw a removal spell off of this. I think I'm far enough behind that if I just put Lurrus in my hand and they just draw any removal spell, my blocks are horrendous. I have no good blocks. I'm really far behind on board. So I think I want to do this and get my cards out of this bow mat. Interesting. I'm going to sacrifice it with the Canyon in case I draw Fatal Push. Okay, then. Not ideal. Not ideal. Now we're basically dead if they draw almost any spell. I think I'm just not going to block here. I'm just going to take it all. I'm not winning this game by blocking here, I don't think. They're playing Shadow, okay. Well, we can play a second bow mat, play a mountain, attack with this, sacrifice it, draw 2 cards. Hope that we draw some removal spells, I guess. The question is it even worth playing this bow mat? I think it is. Like, obviously if I brick on spells here, it gets really awkward, because then I can't put Lurrus into my hand. Or we draw exactly Kolaghan's Command. Yeah, I basically... This game was me getting... I had like a bunch of really close decisions that I think were maybe not necessarily coin flips, but I basically got punished for every single one. I just don't even want to show them the Kolaghan's Command. I can't win this game. Alright, game 2. So they are a Lurrus deck, so I think I want these. Could consider some number of these to kill Death Shadow. I definitely want Command. And I definitely want Kroxa. I think we're going to try cutting all these discard spells again. And just bring in 1 Feed the Swarm. I think that's what we did the last time. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, I'm not really sure that given the cards that they drew in the order that they drew them in, I don't really know if I had a winning line with no matter how I sequenced my spells. Assuming that I was going to make the decisions that I did based on the information I had. But again, it just felt like I got, punished for all the small micro decisions I made, which, that happens sometimes, but. Just waiting on our opponent to finish sideboarding. I will say I do think that the Prowess deck is favored versus the Shadow deck in the abstracts. So I don't hate the spot that I am in terms of where the matchup is. We have Bauble, Cling, Bolt, 4 lands, one of which is a cycling land. I'm actually going to keep this hand. It's unfortunate that we don't have a way to scry with our Bauble, like one of these was a fetch land, but the reason I'm keeping this hand is these games go really long. And this is another matchup where I prefer quantity over quality. I'll keep almost any functional hand. And this hand has 2 redraws anyways, so. So they bobbled themselves. What you got? Fatal Push. Okay. That's a good one to know about. All these bauble triggers. So that one targeted me. So they know I have a Swift Spear, and I know they have a Fatal Push. So let's trade. I'm not even going to bother casting the Cling, because I just know they're going to push this. And if they don't, then I'll get a free damage. Sure. Take my free damage. And they don't want to push. It's very interesting that they would just burn their 1 mana there. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I guess it might depend on their hand. But this is a matchup where you really want to be as mana efficient as possible. Sure. They seal it now, I'm just going to cling their seal. I'm not going to cast the Cling into turn because it just gives them a free target there. I think I'm actually not going to put Lurrus in my hand just to keep my Swift Spear around. I'm trying to think. If I put Lurrus in my hand, they seal it, and then they have this plus push for Lurrus. Yeah, I'm just going to pass. I'll just keep doing nothing. It's a little awkward. Like, obviously I'm saying that mana efficiency is important, but the thing is, I just don't really have anything going on, so it's not like I'm necessarily giving up a ton of equity here, because I just don't have any relevant... Like, obviously I could put the Lurrus in my hand, but... Yeah, that's fine. I don't care if they take Cling. They're going to take Bolt, but... Yep, makes sense. It's going to be a shadow turn. Hopefully we draw a Fatal Push. Unfortunate. Let's put Lurrus in my hand. Pass. Probably have to end up cycling this Cling now. I was trying to hold on to it for as long as possible, but obviously now that they know about it, it's even a little bit worse. We still know they have a Fatal Push, for what it's worth. Yeah, maybe I was supposed to force the action here, and then if we draw Thoughtseize, we can Thoughtseize the Fatal Push and have an uncontested Lurrus, potentially. But yeah, I mean, obviously drawing 7 lands doesn't help, too. Like, I kept the 4-lander, and I think I drew, what, 1 spell, 3 lands? Alright, we'll take our 4. Maybe more. Am I dead? I'm gonna play a Scourge with Fatal Push up. Yeah, now I have to use my mana. If they kill this, it just doesn't. I don't even care at this point. It's the Swiftspear is whatever. That's not a good draw. Does that get us anywhere? They're at 7. I guess to this, pass, push. Well, we know they have a push. I guess we can hope that they don't have another removal spell. We could chump block with the Swiftspear, take 6, but I mean, very unlikely at this point. And we drew 2 spells there, but they were spells that didn't really do anything. Alright, well, that was an unfortunate ending. After a pretty good start, we kind of just petered off there. I don't really think those were necessarily bad matchups, per se. I mean, I kept some... Maybe I kept some questionable hands. Maybe I'm supposed to mulligan this last hand here. Maybe I value the card quantity more than the card quality. Like, obviously, the most important card in this matchup is Fatal Push, but in any case, fun nonetheless, and I will see you back in just a little bit for our little wrap-up. Alright, we are back here with our little wrap-up with RB Prowess. Not go as well as I thought it was going to. I think we played against Burn twice, Collected Company, Red-Black Shadow, and I actually don't remember what our first opponent was playing. Oh, they were playing Jund Shadow. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I have to play a little bit more with this deck to get a feel for some of the numbers. I mean, like I said, I think it might just be maybe I'm misunderstanding the matchups where, like, example, in that last matchup, the Red-Black Shadow, I typically... Okay, I guess the way that I approach the matchup is a lot different than the way that most people approach it. So, like, when I choose my mulligan decisions, I'm basing it off of assumptions that I have in the matchup, whereas most people don't have those assumptions. So it's kind of like I pigeonhole myself into keeping a hand that's good against the way that I play the matchup, but most people don't play the way that I play the matchup. So it's, you know what I mean? It's it's maybe just a flaw in how I should approach mulligan decisions, because maybe people have different opinions than I do. So something I gotta keep in mind. But in any case, yeah, I do think it was a lot of fun. Not sure how well positioned this deck is. It is quite fun to play. So if you're a Prowess aficionado, I would highly recommend checking this deck out. And then, yeah, before we go, just wanted to mention again that the video is sponsored by Mana Traders. I'll go ahead and put a link to the promo code below the video. But if you want, you can use the promo code DoomWake to get 15% off your first 3 months if you've ever wanted to try it. So definitely check them out. And I hope to see everybody in the next video.